and welcome to Outlook Money. I'm Shanakshi Chakravarti and this is the space where we discuss all things money. And with me, I have the editor of the magazine, Nidhi Sinha. Hi Nidhi, how are you?
How are you, Shanakshi? All well, and I hope we have a lively chat today.
Yes, we are in fact looking forward to the November issue. So if you've not got your copies, go to the stands and grab it. And if you can't go to the stands, you can hit up online and take a look at the November issue of Outlook Money. Nidhi, we are discussing all things money, but specifically in this month's issue, we are looking at interesting cover line this time, rent versus buy. Now, this is a question, this is a topic of discussion in every household in India, perhaps globally, whether you rent or you buy. Now, could you elaborate more on this, please?
Yes, of course, Shanakshi, you're right. That's what happens in most households. This discussion is, especially people who are living on rent, they are always wondering whether this is the right time to buy. They'll be looking at prices, where they're going, etc. And especially after a few years you've been working. But the decision to rent and or buy is not a very simple one. So there is, of course, this ongoing angst that, renting is like money going down the drain. And that's because, when you buy a house, there is that feeling that in the process, you are kind of building an asset for yourself for the long term. So when we were doing this cover, we not only dealt with the question of money, whether it is really money going down the drain, renting, or whether it's about, how much you can save in the process while you are living on rent. So one question is that we've dealt with the money question. And the other question that we have dealt with is particular life circumstances which, make so much of a difference in this decision. So these are the two things that we have really gone ahead and found out about.
All right, okay. In fact, for the benefit of our audience and our viewers, why don't we in fact show them what the issue looks like? If you can bring that up, we can show our audiences.
So this is our next cover, rent versus buy. And we have done massive, very detailed calculations to show you the money part on which works for you. So of course, for that, we have had to take certain assumptions in place, such as, you pay the same amount of interest rate on your home loan for the long term, and also the growth rate at which your investment grows. So what we have basically done is we have taken the assumption that you want to buy the same house in which you are living on rent. So essentially, usually what happens is that rent is much lower than the EMI you are going to pay. So what we did for our calculation was that we assumed that you are paying the rent, but you're also investing the difference between this rent and the EMI, the assumed EMI that you would have paid if you had taken a home loan, and invested it in a growth-oriented investment. So our results were quite surprising for us also, because renting is coming out on top of buying. You are actually in a long term of 20 years, what we saw is that you are able to save much more than the future value of your house. Now, future value of your house, what I mean by that is the appreciation in the house asset after 20 years. So it's not like present value, it's the future value with which we have compared. But there are other life circumstances, like I was talking about, that we have dealt with is, it's a lot of individual decisions, whether you want to stay in a particular locality, whether you like to stay near your workplace, your affordability factor. So there are several other things, your sense of security, being, so for a lot of, say, single women, single men, some minorities, a lot of such people, they get a sense of security when they own a house. So all of that, if all that comes into play, then money is only a small part of it. And there are other things that you really need to consider.
All right, so Nidhi, that's interesting. You've made some very interesting points, and one will actually have to read this month's issue to find out what works out better for who, whether it's rent or it's buying. But also, what else can one look forward to in this issue? Why don't you give us a sneak peek?
Yeah, so apart from this very important story on rent versus buy, especially now that interest rates are rising, etc., we have a very important story on the index, the equity investment, which is such a big part of most people's portfolios these days. So what we found out from our numbers, we again ran numbers in that story, and we saw that, for an average retail investor in the present volatile times, sticking to the index, hugging the index, so to say, it can really help you in the long term, because for example, we took Nifty, And we've taken it from inception, and we've seen that it keeps churning its portfolio for to include more to include companies that may perform better for you, and on an average it has given better returns from compared to a lot of other funds. And of course there are funds that will have an alpha over index, but this is something for very basic retail investors, so that is like a shortcut for you. So that story is of course there. And then we have Children's Day in November. So that's there we have something very interesting for parents and children. We have come up with a quiz. So this quiz has 10 questions where you can sit with your kid, figure out how much you have been able to inculcate good money habits in him or her, and how much has he or she been able to kind of grasp from whatever learnings you are trying to impart to your child. So that's something that you should really look forward to and take that quiz.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. You, in fact, did really elaborate on the November issue. So there's lots to look forward to. And thank you for taking out the time to run us through the November issue. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Shonakshi. And to our readers, please grab a copy this time.
All right. So with that, it's a wrap from us. But we will be coming back to you on the Outlook social media page. We are on the Outlook Business, on Outlook Money. So you need to really keep up, like, share and subscribe, and be in touch with this page for all the latest.